Hi there, I'm Nancy Herring from Now We're Cooking. It's Tuesday, so it's time for tips, tricks, and treats. And today I'm making chicken spaghetti. And there's a bazillion recipes out there for chicken spaghetti. It's a very comfort food kind of recipe. And I did not want to do one that called for cans of cream of mushroom soup or cream of chicken soup. Nothing wrong with that. I just wanted to do a different one. So this is kind of a modified cream sauce. What I already had in my skillet was a tablespoon or so of butter that I melted, and then a tablespoon or so of flour that I mixed together until you want to cook them a little bit. I will tell you, I'm halving this recipe because it makes a 9x13 casserole. So I've got two 9x9-ish going on. So my quantities are not exactly right. But what's in here right now is chicken broth, the flour, and the butter, okay? And I'm gonna add, it calls for either heavy cream or half and half. This is half and half, because that's what I had. But you do what you wanna do, you know, that's, sometimes I have heavy cream, sometimes I don't. So what I wanna do, I want to stir this through and I want to heat it thoroughly. And I want to see if I can get little bubbles to form. I don't want it to boil, and it's not going to thicken dramatically, but I want it to cook down a little bit. But while it's doing this, I'm going to put in a clove of garlic. I'm going to use my handy dandy Chiles garlic press. So I drop the garlic into the flour, and I'm going to squish and take my paring knife, scrape off what's out, and then there's my husk, and I can just throw it right away. That's my preferred way to deal with garlic. So I'm letting this cook a little bit more, and to make it a little bit more spicy, I'm gonna put a teeny bit of red pepper flakes. I'm gonna put some taco seasoning in a minute as well. But it's a very easily adaptable recipe. Some chicken spaghetti recipes are very creamy and chickeny and no spice at all. This one happens to call for tomatoes and green chili, also known as Rotel tomatoes, and garlic and taco seasoning. And instead of calls for a tablespoon or so of taco seasoning, I looked up a recipe and I made my own. It's basically chili powder and cumin and garlic powder and salt and pepper and a few things like that. I'll put that in my notes so you'll have it. But right now, see, it's not super thick. I've not made a super thick cream sauce. The ingredients in chicken spaghetti are spaghetti, obviously. I like to break the noodles small. I don't want long noodles. And I use my handy dandy Fasta pasta, where you fill this with your dry pasta, you add water, you put it in the microwave. It doesn't take less time than a pan on the stove. It's just a lot less water. You don't have to bring 8 quarts of water to a boil and all that. You can do it all in the microwave. So I have already made one casserole, so this is going to be my second one. So I've got the milk, the heavy cream. Now I'm going to put in, I'm going to put in my taco seasoning, and I'm not measuring because I just am not. And I want to stir this thoroughly. Make sure there's no little hidden lumps of taco seasoning. This calls for cooked chicken. This is a great way to use up leftover rotisserie chicken. I just took 2 chicken breasts, actually I think it was 3 chicken breasts, and I seasoned them with salt and pepper and a little bit of butter, and I wrapped them in foil and I put them on a baking sheet and I cooked them in the oven. I think it took about 30-35 minutes. I did that last night. And then when they were cooled, I shredded them. But if you've got a Costco chicken, just shred up the leftovers and use it. So this has got the taco seasoning in it. If you're making a custard, this is not a true custard, and you dip, see it's coming to a boil, you put your spoon in it, and you run your finger across the back and it stays separate, that's how you know your custard is together. So this isn't going to to be super thick and I don't want it to be. So I'm turning it down a little bit. Now, what I'm gonna put in are my tomatoes and green chili. And this is when you can get a little creative, and I did one strictly by the recipe. I had a little bit of yellow bell peppers left in my fridge, so I diced them up and sauteed them a bit, and I'm going to add them. It's a good way to sneak in some vegetables. I'm switching whisks to a ball whip, and the advantage of a ball whip is that it does not get clogged with all the ingredients that you just put in there. So I've got tomatoes and green chili. I've got a few yellow bells. Then, this is so easy, my shredded chicken. I'm gonna dump that in. And then I'm gonna put just some of the pasta. I can't tell you how much, because I made this, it called for 12 ounces. My box was 16 ounces. I'm like, what the heck, I'm cooking 16 ounces. So I'm gonna put as much as I can to start with, and I'm gonna stir, 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 and make sure everything's coated. And then I may add some more, I may not. I don't wanna put the cheese in quite yet, because I don't want it to, I wanna see what I've got going before the cheese melts all over it. So it looks to me like I can put quite a bit more pasta in there. And this is really where you just do you, you know, because if you're feeding a ton of people, this is a great thing for like a potluck when you need to do a big quantity, but you can also do a little bit. It's also great if you need to take something like when someone's sick, you can easily put this in a smaller containers like the aluminum disposable ones, wrap it well, label it for your people, because sometimes a casserole is just the best thing to take when somebody's sick or there's been something that you need to take them food. So this is an easy thing to do for that. So what do you think? More pasta? Okay, I've got a pasta lover here, and because I did this earlier, some of my pasta is a little stuck together, but it will come apart when I stir it in my sauce. Okay, that's what I'm gonna do. So stir, 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 stir. I want the pasta to break up, using my fingers because that's the best tool sometimes. So stir, stir. It calls for what they call Mexican cheese blend. I used cheddar and Monterey Jack blend. I grated some myself, and I had a bag of some already grated. When you buy grated cheese in a bag, it's been coated with some flour or something like that to keep it from separate, so it doesn't always melt as well. So I think that looks pretty darn good. I've got all my various seasonings. I think I am gonna throw a little bit more pasta, and then I'm gonna put most of the cheese in, but I'm gonna save some to go on the top because I want it to be a little cheese. My tongs are escaping on from the container there. But it's nothing's complicated in this dish, which makes it easy to do, and it's a very comforting dish. And a lot of people grew up with a version of chicken spaghetti. So when I first started reading and hearing about it, I'm thinking, I don't want to make spaghetti with chicken. Well, it's really a pasta and cheese casserole. So I'm going to put in part of my cheese and stir that till it gets a little melty. And then I'm going to pour it in, and as I say, I'm using a smaller casserole dish. It's a deep 8x8. So I'm going to stir all this. The actual cooking time is not long. Prepping can take a little teeny bit of time, but you can spread it out. You know, if you've got cooked chicken, you're halfway home. So, alrighty. I sprayed my pan with cooking spray because I don't want things to stick too much. And if I see any little noodles becoming too good of friends with their neighbors, I'm going to break those up a little bit. So I'm gonna do this and hope for the best. cast iron is a little warm. My bottom pan is a brazier pan from Le Creuset, and my baking pan is also from Le Creuset. And it's ceramic, not cast. So spread my noodles in there, and then I want to take the cheese. I want to sprinkle it as evenly as I can. Cheese has been sitting out this afternoon a little bit, so because it's so warm here. This is just a great thing to, as I say, take to somebody, or to freeze a small pan and have it in your freezer, so that when you just need something, you should get it out and cook it. All right, there go my noodles. So, into the oven at 350 for about 20 minutes. You want it to be bubbly, and you want the cheese to melt. Okay, so that's going in there. And naturally you want to see what it looks like. So let me move this out of the way without dropping my entire tray. And here's my finished casserole. And it was, when I took it out, it was just so bubbly and deliciousness. So you get cheese, you get chicken, you get some cream sauce, you get the whole gamut of comfort flavors. If you like a little heat, that's delicious. If you don't want the heat, use regular tomatoes and don't use any of the red bell peppers. But it's just a take on a very comforting dish. Even though it's 100 degrees in Albuquerque this week, sometimes you do want something warm for supper. So that's my take on chicken spaghetti. Now we're cooking is at the northeast corner of Paseo del Norte in Wyoming in Albuquerque. We are open from 11 to 4, Monday through Saturday. We can help you out with all kinds of equipment that you might need to make this kind of casserole, or equipment to do anything else that you're cooking this summer. A lot of people are fruit trees are going crazy and they're starting to can, and we can help you with all the little gadgety things that you need for that. So here's chicken spaghetti. I'll post the recipe on some pictures. I hope you might try and make it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.